Hey everyone, it's me, Tafara, coming to you today to talk to you about the seventh of the seven universal principles. And I cover this in my new book, A Guide to Manifesting Your Reality, with the seven universal principles and how I use them to achieve my goals at NASA. Um, and this is the principle of gender. So, of course, now when you say gender, people immediately go to um, something completely different. And what the principle talks about is the idea that in nature, there are things that have a masculine aspect and a feminine aspect, but also in every realm. So, again, spiritually and physically and on down the realms, if you will. Um, but with respect to spiritually, and that's what I want to focus on, we see this. We can understand this principle if you think about it just in terms of timing, or maybe time and opportunity, but specifically timing. Like people talk sometimes about, it was bad timing, or the time wasn't right, or um, sometimes you hear people talk about God's timing. And that's really the best way to understand, what is really meant by gender and how that plays out, effectively. And as I was thinking about the best way to talk about this principle, I thought about the story of King David. I mean, there are many different parts to his story, but one of the things and themes, that recurred in his story was timing. It was God's timing. Um, and just, I mean, really from the beginning, but, his whole rise to, becoming king, like just from the point where he, was anointed, um, to the point where he was on the run. He was running from, King Saul, and it was like he was running for his life. He would come back and then he'd leave, he'd run. He was hiding, and then he would, was cutting off pieces of his garment. Like, I could have killed you, but you get it. It's an interesting story, and honestly, I really want to spend some time studying it. But just to kind of give you a higher level summary of it, a lot of what happened with him, had to do with him kind of going back and forth between, focusing on and embodying, the feminine aspect of the principle of gender and the masculine aspect of the principle of gender. I mean, I think he kind of really struggled with that in some ways, because he knew, like, King Saul was anointed. He didn't want to kill him, but at the same time, he obviously didn't want to be murdered, because he knew he, was eventually going to be king. But even when he became king, then he had to retreat, feminine aspect, and one of his sons was, trying to murder him, and just, this kind of back and forth. But of course, during this time, he had his battles, with different enemies of, the children of Israel, enemies of God. And so he was, in his masculine aspect, as he should have been, to overcome those people. So, and those enemies. But it was a whole study of the principle of gender. And so there really a lot can be said about it, just studying him. And so I didn't want to try to do that a disservice and really get into it here. But I would say, think about that. Think about God's timing in your life. And sometimes what we want is not really what's in our best interest with respect to how we move in life. And I really feel like this year, I had to come to grips with that in the last year. And so I've really been, focusing on understanding, living a better understanding of the principle of gender. But there's a scripture I want to reference here, and it's from Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, and it's verse 11, and it reads, and this is the NIV: I have seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. So meditate on these things, and until next time.